I really wanted to share this moment, just kind of capture it and invite you to see, because this is an invisible manifestation. It's not really invisible, but it's really easy to discount. Especially because moments like this are often seen as random interruptions in an otherwise chaotic experience of life for a lot of people. A perfect moment like this. The wind, its feeling on my skin, the sound rustling through the trees, the wind chimes in my neighbor's yard, the sun as it's shining down on my skin and perfectly illuminating this arbor with these beautiful grapevines. We've got jasmine growing over here. We got fruit trees. We got green palms and green grass. And right over there, as you've seen in some of my recent videos, is my perfect hula hooping space. Now, I'm gonna let that be a segue as I tell you a little bit about what it was like for 8 years to live in the beautiful, majestic redwoods in the Santa Cruz Mountains. It was really good for me to live there, but there was one thing that always felt like it was missing. And really that was the perfect hula hooping space right at home. Now, it took me a while because I was for so many years still spinning around in the conditioning to be busy, the conditioning to doubt my worth, and so to think that I had to choose my actions and identify goals for myself, identify things that I had to manifest or create in order to prove my worth to myself, to the world, to God. I really thought I had to keep myself very busy. For some of you, that's correct. For some of you, and you know who you are, it's correct for you to stay busy. And what I learned and what I've remembered, actually, because a lot of it is remembering myself as a child. And I remember the stillness. And I remember my desire for spaciousness. And when I check in with my inner child, most of the memories that come back to me of what I really loved about being a child, it was moments like this. I can remember watching the reflection of sunlight on water in my little inflatable pool in the backyard of the house I grew up in. I can remember just the majesty of the sun shining through a window and just feeling this field of warmth. And I felt emotion in that energy. I felt such support. I felt such love. I remember as a child just feeling the wonder of the fact that we lived on this planet, and there was this deep knowing that I had that everything was okay. And so I remember myself as naturally settling into moments and allowing them to surround me. So when I finally, as an adult, started to allow these memories to speak to me, along with some insights I was receiving from different systems that I studied, and I usually study multiple systems at the same time. But I was getting this feedback that for me, it's more natural to be still. That when I'm still, I can actually watch the busy people and I can see when they're in alignment and it's stunning and it's beautiful and I cheer. Yes, go energy beings. And I can also see when it's out of alignment. It's usually characterized by a lot of frustration, a lot of you know, just having to retrace steps and feeling as though progress isn't happening and all of that. These are subjects for other videos. But what I was getting to is that when I stopped running around, driving past the forest, I realized I was living in the forest, but I would get up and make myself drive out of it and sit in traffic to drive back in, sleep, and then do it again the next day often. And so actually it wasn't until I stopped the conditioning of chasing around made-up goals that even when I achieved them didn't feel nearly as fulfilling as I had hoped that they would, and nowhere near as fulfilling as I want my life to feel. It wasn't until I stopped the conditioning and allowed myself to reclaim my stillness, my calm, my vantage point of being in the center of activity and allowing those who truly have the natural energy to be busy to do that, and to allow myself to be the one that gets to witness them and understand. It was then that I realized that right down the street from my house, I had, you know, a great hula hoop space, but it was still driving 10 minutes away, walking 15 to 20 minutes away. And I had to think, I had to put some clothes on, I had to, you know, get dressed, I had to intend to leave the house. At least that's how it felt to me. And there was also this other factor that sometimes there were other people there. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and it would be beautiful and I would want to go and have a flat, grassy surface to hoop on, where if I lost control of one of my hoops and it went flying, it didn't go into a ravine or, you know, fly off the deck, you know, far away into a place that it was likely to not be retrieved again. If I wanted a place like that, I had to go down the street and go to this little lawn. And like I said, there were always other factors. There was always the potential of something, whether it be that I was just so in my hermit mode that morning that I didn't want to risk having to see another person. I just wanted to hoop. I didn't want to have to say hi to a neighbor or potentially get caught up in a conversation with someone that I encountered along the way, or explain myself to a one of the what do I want to say? One of the staff members of the golf club that we lived at. Why I was using this facility of theirs, you know, basically without renting it, because they rent it for weddings and for events and things like that, and they have a staff that is keeping the lawn very nice and green most of the year. And so, you know, I sometimes my hermit just felt squeamish about those things, didn't want to have to face it. And so there were plenty of days when either I'd get up and go and there'd be people there, or I'd get up and not want to go because I didn't want to encounter the people there. And this is all basically a long way of me saying that as beautiful as that hooping space was, and how I have such great memories of it, my dog used to love to take little walks down there with me and things like that, I now have manifested, just like this moment of sitting here in this arbor with this breeze, surrounded by nature in its own way. I'm in the middle of a city, but I'm still surrounded by nature. I manifested that. And I also manifested this perfect hooping space. Oh my gosh, do you see how flat it is? Do you see how much space there is? And do you see how it's not likely that if I throw a hoop accidentally because I lose control, it's gonna go somewhere that I can't retrieve it? It's gonna be right here in my own backyard. And so I've been just savoring the fact that this is one of the manifestations that proves to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that even though the finances for this home came from a source other than me, I manifested this house. Just like I manifested this moment. And the moments like this that I allow to come to me pretty much every day. And I don't just let them pass by. You know, acknowledge them. I created this. Thank you. This spaciousness, this stillness, it's a prize to me. Now, that's what the point of making this video was and is that sometimes, especially when we realize that we had been kind of chasing another path, and I mentioned that in my video about your job is actually to be human, that sometimes in our conditioning, we try to carve out a path for ourselves and it takes us over here when there was a perfect experience that we'd manifested that was waiting for us over here. And all we had to do was believe in our natural worth enough to allow ourselves to be guided to it. Now that guidance, that path of guidance, it feels like doing what's most natural to us. We're conditioned to believe that what's natural to us, often we're conditioned to believe that what comes natural to us is somehow not enough, it's inappropriate. We have to layer a bunch of things on top of it, be things for other people, be things for the world, prove things, demonstrate things, earn things. That's the path going over here. But the path that is like stepping onto an escalator or one of those walking runways, you know, in the airports, and it takes you easily over to your destination. Or if it's actually more joyful for you to walk and experience the energy of your body and feel the movement of your body through the airport, then that's your path. Or if somehow, you know, running through the airport at the last minute to get to your flight is actually enjoyable to you, then maybe there's some of that in your path. You know, my point is this path often feels like hard work, and it takes us to places that aren't as satisfying. This path often looks like we're not doing very much at all. And that's the trick. Sometimes when we've been used to going this way for so long, and it really feels like we're doing something because it feels unnatural and it feels hard, but it's doing what we thought we were supposed to do, it can take a little while to release that conditioning, that impulse to go towards what feels familiar, which is actually the conditioning to doubt our worth, the conditioning to doubt that we're worthy of having the life that we really crave, that the human animal, the human consciousness inhabiting this body that feels, that senses, that experiences pain and all the ups and downs of what it means to be human, that beautiful, vulnerable creature actually deserves to experience a good life. You know, we've kind of gotten away from that, a lot of us, to a certain degree. And so when we relax into that, sometimes we don't trust it. And we go back to what feels familiar. Well, this doesn't feel like anything happening, right? Because you're just kind of floating downstream. You're just kind of allowing yourself to be joyfully guided towards that which feels the most natural to you. It sometimes doesn't look like you're doing enough. And if you're conditioned to believe that you have to earn or prove or demonstrate your worthiness somehow by doing things that feel unnatural to you, which is a lot of the world that we live in, then simply relaxing into the natural guidance that brings us to the life that we deserve can look like doing nothing. And sometimes along the way, even though the manifestations, like this moment, let's bring you back to this moment. Other than the fact that I've no makeup and haven't really gotten dressed today and I'm making a video, this moment it's pretty perfect. Sounds and scents and sensations and a delicious stillness. And then there's the perfect hooping space. But see, the irony is that at this point on my journey, I would be hard pressed to prove to anyone who's really still focused on that other path that feels less natural, that feels more like work, where there's a bunch of demonstrable things along the way. Look, I made this much money. Look, I sold this many things. I did this many hours of work. Those things you can measure and you can mark. And even though it's not taking you truly to that fulfillment that you've been craving since you were a child and it was the most natural thing, it's not taking you to that fulfillment, but it's taking you to those markers that we've learned to be able to identify and share with each other and say, oh, look, you're accomplishing something. You've earned that. Well, I'm not jumping through those hoops anymore, guys. And somehow, what I want to share with you is that even though my bank account doesn't reflect a lot of what people in the world consider to be wealth, I am living true abundance. Feel this moment with me, just feel it. Just take it in. It's so saturated. It's so beautiful. It is such the fabric of life that I want to experience more and more, and I do more and more since I stopped going down that conditioning path. I have truly satisfying manifestations in my life, including moments like this, including living in the middle of a suburban to urban area where everything is relatively close, but I still feel this nature embracing me just like it did in the redwood forest. And I came to really love and appreciate the embrace of the redwood forest. And I don't know if you can tell, but in my view shed in this house in suburbia, there are actually some redwood trees. I manifested this, you guys. And I did it effortlessly. Now, most people who are still conditioned, they're going to say that's luck, or you're lucky that you have people taking care of you in your life. Well, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that I have become a means of drawing through these people who still believe they have to do this conditioned way. I have become a means of drawing through them, the more tangible manifestations. Because prior to our home that we manifested just in December, just about 6 months ago, I had recognized my ability to manifest days that were filled with moments just like this. And how truly satisfying and fulfilling that is to me, which means that it's a meaningful manifestation to me. You don't have to want the same thing, but I do. I want moments like this. I want spaciousness like this. I want the feeling in my body of just knowing implicitly that I'm worthy. That's what I want. And I want to carry that in as many moments as I can. And so I've manifested it. I am manifesting it because it's ongoing. If I ever stop focusing on it or allowing it, I will probably go back to that other way, which was so unsatisfying and so unfulfilling. The feeling of busyness is not inherently satisfying to me, as it is to some people. It's not to me. It never has been. So this is a manifestation that I am reveling in this moment. And if you're still here and you're listening to these words and you're drinking in this moment with me, thank you for letting me share it with you. That, meaning this moment, moments like this, and my perfect hooping space. These are the seemingly invisible manifestations in my life that on a daily basis are affirming that I'm on the right track, right where I'm supposed to be, and allowing life to bring to me the delicious manifestations, the experiences that allow me to feel worthy, truly, viscerally worthy of being loved and supported on this beautiful planet. So, I am wishing you truly satisfying and fulfilling manifestations in whatever form that is for you. It could be business, it could be actual work. That's fine. You could be one of those beings for whom that truly feels good. For me, it's inhabiting moments like this more and more and more. That's what does it for me. And I've got it. So yay! And you deserve it too. And so it is. Namaste.